Are blue balls real?
Do you encourage couples to use toys?
I spent an hour and a half working up the courage to ask this question.
In consensual non-consent, stop or just, don't do this.
That's
not
not
a
working.
safe word because
my
that's
God.
part of the fantasy. The best kind of sex is when you're connected.
They're here asking, yo, when's the kids gonna come? But
They're not having to talk about
there's never been
They're
a
not asking how are the
How,
kids going to
yeah.
how
come.
are the kids gonna come?
Men that are more powerful might seem more sexually attractive because maybe it's more about them providing.
I hate it when my own semen touches my hand. All right. Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Disruption Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We're getting close to that 300 episode very soon.
300.
getting close.
You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe.
Subscribe. Yep.
Share it around. Spotify listeners, go to the app right now. Rate us 5 stars. Really helps us out. And
been
thank
listening.
you to everyone who's been doing that because it's very good. Snore the Baghdaddy.
It's Chief Alassaj in the building, baby.
It's your girl Moeezy.
All right, and we got an hour 20 minutes to entertain you.
So-
Maybe a bit more today. Depends how good the convo flows. I feel like this will be a good one. So it's something we've probably never really touched on that much in all of our episodes.
300.
Somehow, I don't know how we didn't talk about this
Yeah.
much, but we're going to be talking Diddy and all that he's been doing. We're going to be talking about sex in general. We're going to be talking about some triggering conversations potentially, so just a warning in advance. There might be some topics around consent and things like that that might be triggering to you or experiences that you've had or whatnot. But it's going to be a good one. We're going to find out what everybody's fetish is here today.
Lost his whole mind.
But nah, thank you for joining us. We've got Laura Miano here as well, who's a professional sexologist.
Welcome.
All right,
I'm dying, man.
let's get into
Let's
it.
do it.
I was gonna say your fetish thing has not been a mystery.
Yeah,
though.
you
People
never-
have been knowing your situation.
Everyone knows mine. I've been waving this flag for the longest.
Oh, what is it?
I'm a connoisseur of a good foot.
Perfect, beautiful.
His connoisseur is the craziest way to put it, but we'll let it slide, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming and joining us. And you're a professional potter as well, so pretty much you're down and ready for this. You've been doing this. How are you?
I'm excited. I'm good. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah. Well,
Excited
yeah,
to
we've got
have
some
you.
interesting stuff to get straight into that.
When,
Sure.
all right, do you want to break down what Sexologist does, and then specifically maybe what your practice is as well?
Yeah.
And then how much does that intertwine with sex therapy and advice and all of that? If that makes
Okay.
sense. Because it's like when I was really looking at it, I was like, I've heard the term sexologist. I don't know what Laura does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I help people overcome sexual concerns. Because I'm a therapist, I mainly deal with the psychological element of sexual concerns. And if someone were to have more of a physiological kind of causation to what their concern is, then I would refer on. But essentially, sex therapy is helping people work through all different types of sexual concerns. It could include erectile dysfunction, it could be low desire discrepancies in a relationship, painful sex, especially for women and people with vulvas, as well as struggles with orgasm, premature ejaculation.
Yeah. Also, let's preface this: we are not mature enough to have this conversation.
Yeah.
We are not. We're very smart people, but we cannot have
I
these
think the
kind of
mature
conversations
ones are on
without.
this couch. It's okay. We'll hold
Exactly.
it down.
Exactly.
We'll
The
hold it
mature
down.
ones are on that couch. We can have this conversation, but we can't have it without cracking jokes every 3 sentences. So please put up with us.
That's okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. Because I heard dysfunction. I was like, as if it's not gonna happen to me when I'm like.
That's a whole gambit of things that people bring to your practice right there. How in the world does that all now? Like, what does one study?
Or when do you
That's
find
hard,
out, like,
yeah.
yo, I love
good
this
at
topic?
this.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And because also answer that first, and then I have a follow up. Yeah.
Okay. So when I was in school, like high school, I was always very comfortable talking about sex. And I found, when you grow up, like you have a lot of changes that happen with your body as you develop. And some people get a little bit scared by those changes. I was very curious and I would talk about it with my friends and open up the conversation in a very like relaxed way. But one person that really shaped my attitudes towards sex was actually Lil Kim. With her song.
I've never been afraid of that one.
No, it's eat my right.
Yeah.
You can say
Nah,
that.
I reckon you're one of the first few people that heard that song and said, I'm inspired.
I'm gonna study. I heard this word. I'm gonna study now.
Okay.
Well, she had a really like amazing message, especially for women.
Prophet Kim, bro.
Yeah, especially for women, because she was saying that, at a time when women's sexuality really wasn't spoken about enough and sexual empowerment for women, wasn't really a thing. It was all very male focused.
For sure.
She was out there saying like, my sexuality matters and like, I'm not going to just give everything to the man. So I found that, message really amazing. It's kind of like Cardi B, WAP. I feel like what she did for everyone recently is what Lil Kim did for me back in the day. So I think that definitely made me feel quite inspired to like push the same message, I guess, to destigmatize sex and make it more accessible to people. And then, when I finished school, I didn't actually go into it straight away. I was in fashion for a little while, but always had this love for psychology. So went back to school and was thinking of being a psychologist, but as I got further into it, I was like, nah, sexology is exactly what I want to do. And when I started studying it, I became absolutely obsessed with it. Like I would study until 3 a.m. and then find a new topic and then go delve into like, all of these little black holes in like study because I just loved it. So I knew I found the right calling.
Who are the, I know you got a follow-up question, but who are the forefathers and mothers of the sexology space then? Like, in psychology, you've got your
Freud and
Freudian, all that kind of stuff, the theorists and people that have, studied and developed whatever it might be from that.
Yeah, who's the ultimate freaks
Who's there?
of study?
That's a good question. I feel like I'm not going to remember all of them. Masters and Johnson were a big one.
Okay. Not Johnson and Johnson, guys. Masters and Johnson.
Masters and Johnson, they developed a really popular therapeutic approach in sex therapy called sensate focus. Okay. It's been very like revolutionary within sex therapy. Also, Alfred Kinsey was a big one. I hope I'm saying that name right. Yeah. They did some really great research in the 60s on sexuality and how it's not as it's not as kind of boxed in terms of like. Sorry, make sure I say
rigid.
Right. Yeah, it's not as rigid. Yes, it's not as rigid as you might think. Gosh, there's more, but I feel like I can't get into them all.
I was just interested if like there's people who've like pioneered in that space.
Definitely, there are. Yeah,
I'm curious to know like what that conversation was like with your parents or the people around you as well. Like letting them know, okay, this is what my interest is, and kind of wanting to study that.
Actually, sorry, before because that was my follow-up question. But like, what's your cultural background?
I'm half Italian.
Okay.
Half Australian.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so
so
ethnic.
So the upbringing is like,
Exactly.
what was it like at home then? Like, is sex talked about? Is it talked about enough for them to be like, all right, our daughter's a professional sex teacher? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the...
Yeah. I mean, with my mum, she would always make like funny jokes about sex behind closed doors, like with the girls, where it was safe to talk about in a joking way, but like you just don't talk about it like too openly. So that created this like sense of safety around sex and also this like humor around it, which didn't really shame it too much for me. My dad is Sicilian background, so it was I definitely had that upbringing of it being very taboo to talk about in terms of with him. And there was definitely it took a little while for them to be into the idea of what I'm doing, but they see now how much I love it, and because I love it, I work really hard, and yeah, it's been working really well for me. So I think they're into it now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I could not tell you if I've ever had a conversation about that with my parents ever. Yeah. They're here asking, yo, when's the kids going to come? But
they're not having the talk of how.
There's never been
They're not asking how are the kids going to come.
That conversation when I was 27, I mean, you wouldn't think that they'd be talking to me about that when I was a child. But in my 27 years of life, not once has that popped up. So I'm like, I don't have a framing of what that conversation would look like in a household. Like only from shows and all these coming of age kind of films and all that kind of stuff. Like that's where I see, parents sitting them down or trying to do, what's the word here? Demonstrations.
Birds and bees.
Birds and bees, or doing demonstrations. Mum's got a banana and is trying to teach the son. I'm like, nah, can't ever remember a call like this ever.
Yeah. I didn't really get that either.
No?
No, I didn't at all as well, Did you?
I will say this. I had, we had like, what's it called? Health classes here.
Yeah.
And this was when we first moved to Australia, so year 9-ish. And, Middle Eastern background, right? And so they were like, just tell your parents we're going to start doing like sex ed next week or something. So I was like, let me just run the gauntlet and just, as a funny thing, let me just tell my dad, right? I wasn't going to, like, I don't care. Like, they're not going to do anything about it. But I was like, oh, Dad, we're doing sex ed next week. He just looks at me and he goes, even the dogs know how to do it. You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. That's it.
That was it. That was it.
I remember my parents not signing the form. The consent form. So you had to sit in the middle room in between the two classes and they boarded up the window.
Oh, wow.
They put what do you call it, newspaper on the window just so you can't.
Everyone's standing like this with a cup.
Like everyone finished the class. I come out the middle room. They've all got their worksheets. I'm trying to peek like, what's on your paper, bro? Like, let me get a little bit of that info.
Wow.
Nah, a little bored of me. I didn't get that info till date.
That's why the kids aren't coming. You don't know what to do.
Bro, that's dope though. Yeah. So. What's that journey of like you're interested in it and then you're studying? So this is like there's courses and everything like that for this as well then too. Yeah. And then people around you as well interested in this too, or is just completely a new space for you that no one else was interested in as well?
I was definitely the only sex therapist that you
knew around you. Yeah.
When I first kind of got into it. But yeah, I did a undergrad, like a bachelor degree in psychological science, and then did a master's in. Basically, it's sexology. It's called a Master of Science in Medicine, Sexual and Reproductive Health. And I did the psychosexual units.
Yeah.
Does it become very clinical when you talk about sex then now? Like, as in, where does or even like in that kind of class setting, right? Because I think for the average person, it sounds a bit funny, but it's like when you think like, there's a class of 30 people that are all learning about sex. Like they're just talking about the freakiest stuff and they're all into each other. Like that's probably how like the average person looking at it from outside stares at it. But it's like, and when you're actually in the classes, everyone kind of just like, all right, let's just matter of fact here. And this is the conversation. Like, is that, it's not as exciting as what you think?
Yeah. Oh no, it's still exciting. I think it's just this really interesting space where something that's typically so taboo is just approached with, in such a matter-of-fact way. Like, I remember people talking openly about how they're into kink and they want to run workshops in, like, the kink space. I remember we had, like, a sex worker come on who worked with people with disabilities and, as one of our intensives, she spoke for, like, a 2-hour lecture. So it was just really interesting to be in, like, because I went to, I studied through University of Sydney. So it's just really interesting to like be in this academic space and have, all these people talk so openly about this thing that you can't really speak about anywhere else in that kind of way.
That's so bad. I could not. I'm trying to picture that lecture theatre or that tutorial room. Like, what is that? What goes on in there? How long have you now been practicing then? Post that?
For 6 years now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I'm just interested in, there's a bunch of convos and questions in our minds, right? Like, someone's coming to the practice for the first time ever, right? What's that experience like? What's the conversation? How do things start?
Yeah. So I would usually get a little bit of an understanding of, why they've booked in. And I'll typically do like what's called an intake. So basically ask them lots of different questions about their concern and then get into their kind of like sexual history, which I always find really interesting. It's like one of my favorite parts of the job. So just understanding like how they learnt about sex growing up, what the attitudes were, how their parents showed love and affection towards each other, stories they heard about sex in school. Was it something that felt taboo? Sometimes people might find that when they are in school, if you talk too much about sex, it means you're not like focused on your schoolwork.
Studies, yeah.
So, you know, how that messaging kind of impacts them, all the way through to like their first sexual experiences, and, you know, first relationships and whatnot. So yeah, I'll often get a really good understanding of who they are and their history, and then put like a treatment plan into place, and then kind of start working with it from there.
Really, yeah, okay, yeah. You said hearing people's like sexual history is the most interesting part typically for you. Why is that? Because for me, it's just pure nosiness.
Bro. I just want to know.
I just want to know, yeah. So what is it for you specifically then?
Can I tell you don't want to know? You
No, I do. Like, it's just nosiness. Like, that would be the reason why
Just wanting to know what's up.
So I'm like, I wonder if there's something deeper than that for you in terms of why you'd be interested in that part.
I think, yeah, it is always just interesting, I guess, hearing like people's different history with sex. So I guess in the same way for me, it is just interest, but it is also really cool to kind of piece together how those early experiences might have impacted them in the current day. So for example, going back to like if there was this idea that being sexual was seen as like, you know, you're not focused on your studies, someone later in life could then find a lot of discomfort with being sexual. They might, you know, find that they're a little bit more rigid in other areas of their life as well. So, yeah, I just find it really interesting to be able to make these connections between the young, like what they experienced when they were younger, and then to today.
Yeah, it's funny though, because we never even think about it in that aspect of our lives. We were just talking maybe 2 episodes ago around how crazy impactful the childhood really is on our present day self and many, many generations to come and things like that. It's like, I've never even thought about the way that childhood upbringing experiences in that way also impacts that aspect of me, like the sexual aspect.
What a weird thought, like, because my parents loved me better, I might end up becoming a better lover. And it sounds weird to put that in a sentence, but it's like, that could be a thing. Or it's like, because, you know what I mean? Like, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Even something like how someone experienced puberty, like...
Like bullied a lot type of thing? Or
bullied. I guess if it's relating to maybe changes in their body that then led to bullying, that can impact sex because it, you know, that might impact their sense of desirability. It might impact their own relationship to their body, and all of those things are relevant to sex.
Yeah. All right. So, because I think there's a conversation that goes around quite a bit nowadays where it's like, especially when it comes to dating, like, do you ask, do you not ask about their past? Right? When you say, like, for you, I'm guessing here, but when you ask about their past, it helps you come up with a better approach to how to conversate with them? Yeah. I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Why would that then not be the same thing that's applied to dating relationships where it's like, hey, if I ask you this, then, like, we can become better partners to each other. But it's seen as almost like a thing of, like, I think a lot of time you get both extremes of like you have to ask, you whatever, up to you at the end of the day. But it's like, what would you recommend, I guess, in a relational sense? Or yeah, maybe how do you approach yours if you want? But yeah.
Well, I think it just comes down to what each person is comfortable with. I don't think people need to talk about their past unless they're comfortable. Okay. I think in a clinical setting, it's required because, well, most of the time, if someone doesn't want to talk about things, then we can still work around it. But in order for me to be able to do my job as best as possible, then it really helps to be able to understand their history. But I guess that's like a clinical professional setting versus relationship, romantic setting. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, I don't know how much we, like a lot of people want to ask this question and have openness and, tell me. But it's like, how many people have the tools to deal with what they've been told after that? Like you can hear that and it's like, okay, this could be something we could have navigated around or you can be a bit more sensitive to the information you're receiving from this other person. But half the time, none of us have any, we've got no tools in our arsenal. We just want to know. And then it's like, okay, what do we actually do with that? I don't know how many people are, again, mature enough maybe is the word, to handle that potentially.
Yeah. A lot of people struggle to talk about sex. So they might ask a question and then get an answer and then like shrivel up because they're like, I don't know how to talk about
They're
that.
like, ooh. And it's like, okay, now just that ooh alone, one sound effect has ruined this conversation. So it could be interesting that way, yeah. That puberty part that you mentioned, that was because that's something where, again, I think we have the sex ed classes in school and all that kind of stuff. But even then, like, I don't know how much information they're like providing, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds to actually navigate this properly.
Yeah.
And even then beyond that, like, I don't know how much really, like, everyone's family is all different as well then. And then like there's varying information that comes to people.
Yeah.
What do you see are some of these bigger problems in that space when it comes to like, I guess the puberty and that transition from, being, what's the word? I guess children.
Prepubescent.
Into prepubescent, into that like adolescence and puberty kind of stage. What are these like major challenges that you've probably seen over the years?
Yeah, I think the main thing is in like formal education, kids aren't taught about pleasure. So sex is often just about like avoiding STIs, avoiding pregnancy, and there's not this education around what this activity is meant to feel good, and those pleasure feelings is what meant to guide you, and it also needs to be that same experience for the other person. So like consent and stuff like that. So much of that is just skimmed over, and people like people really struggle to use pleasure as a guide during sex because they're really not taught about how important it is.
Yeah, from an early age, yeah.
That's
part of the some of the big things that are on my mind, where I just wonder now with the whole rise of a lot of like red pill culture as well as manosphere, all of this kind of space, and it's like how bad do you see that now ruining a lot of the good work that you've been trying to do and other people in the same profession as well? Like how influential have you seen that be coming into even like people that come to your practice and stuff like that? I don't know if you're aware, like red pill, manosphere, all that kind of.
Can you maybe like debrief me a little?
It's a lot of different things. I'd say it's this hyper masculine outlook on life where a lot of the people who I guess subscribe to this type of messaging are focused on a lot of stuff of like getting your money up, women are tools and objects or means to an end kind of thing. Help me out.
It's a lot of playing into the power dynamic of the what's the word? Like the animalistic side of male and female.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, guys you get your money up, you get all the girls you want. You shouldn't have to put up with questions and whatever and accountability as a man because you're a man. Like that. Okay. That's the furthest far of it. Yeah, but it's like it leads to that kind of cycle quite a bit. A lot of the content that's produced from this spaces.
Yeah.
How much do you see that trickle into potentially some of the attitudes that people might have towards sex and the conversation that you're having in practice then?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much beauty in like the masculine and the feminine. I guess, if it becomes more like super extreme where it's about, a man like not listening to what a woman, is saying and like consent is not an important issue. I guess in terms of my practice, I probably don't see those kinds of people too much because they probably wouldn't
come to that was, I'm going to say this,
Yeah, they wouldn't come to sex therapy.
That's so bad.
Do you mainly get men or women?
Both. I actually see a lot of men. These days it's maybe 60% men, 40% women. It started more women, but I really like treating men. So, yeah. Wow.
Do you see a lot of couples?
And a lot of couples, yeah.
Yep. That would
50-50.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm interested why the men
same.
happen. Oh, yeah, why?
Well,
What's going on with the men?
I think it's really nice to offer men a space to talk about their sexuality, sexual anxiety and stuff like that, because there is a lot of shame, especially for men that might have like erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation. They can find it really, really hard to open up with people in their life. So I really like offering that space for men. And I think it's also just been a nice, thing for me on a personal level to kind of see the vulnerability in men.
Yeah.
I really like that's been healing for me.
Yeah.
It's just what is premature ejaculation? Because that's not just finishing early or like quickly. Sorry.
So basically it is when you lose control of your ejaculation. So I mean, if that happens after like 5 minutes, then that's just normal. Yeah. But if it's happening, within 30 to 60 seconds, with like, so 30 to 60 seconds of stimulation, and then it happens and you're not in control of it, you're not aware, and all of a sudden it just happens, that's premature ejaculation. If it's happening consistently. So if it happens to you once every now and again, that's not premature ejaculation. If it's happening consistently for like 3 months plus, yeah.
That's tough, because like, I feel like the flip side, right? The guy always made his girl finish in 60 seconds. That's a compliment. He's getting handshakes everywhere.
President?
Champion. Damn, okay. But I can see how that's actually very demoralizing as the guy as well. And I can imagine as the partner as well.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of shame that comes up with men that can't, control the ejaculation. And erections as well is a big one. So if they can't maintain an erection, there's a lot of shame. They feel like emasculated a lot of the time.
What do you reckon is... Well, actually, I don't know if we have statistics and this kind of stuff. Or probably don't have it off the top of your mind. But it's like, is there an increase in the amount of guys that like cannot maintain erections and things like that in this generation as opposed to previous ones? Because we'll go through some questions from our listeners later. But like, there was quite a few around like porn being a contributing factor to things. Does that come up a lot in your work or?
Yes.
Yeah,
porn comes up a lot. I mean, firstly, porn doesn't always need to be a negative thing. It's there for entertainment, and if people kind of have a healthy relationship with it, it can just be a nice addition to, all of the other things that you enjoy during sex, or during masturbation. But for people who rely on it and they do it, maybe as a way to handle stress in their everyday life, so it becomes like a coping mechanism for stress, that's when it can start to become a little bit more problematic. Yeah, and in terms of, so I guess the three things: delayed ejaculation, which means it's hard to ejaculate. I see that with men because they are used to porn, so they need this like super stimulus to get there.
Right, okay,
and then they can't in partnered sex because it's not the same. With erectile dysfunction, so that's when they can't maintain an erection, that's basically they're struggling to get aroused. And so if they are used to porn, again, it can make it hard to get aroused during partnered sex. With premature ejaculation, I see it because with porn, when they masturbate, they're so focused on this external thing, they're not aware of the sensations in their body. They're not like being quite embodied. That's just like mind is on the porn. So during sex, they don't really have the tools to be able to notice sensations in their body and notice that their arousal is increasing. Yeah, that's just a few ways. It does impact in a lot of other ways as well.
So does a lot of... this is going to sound so stupid because obviously the answer is going to be yes. But like clearly a lot of sex has to do with the mind.
Yeah, the mind is the biggest sexual organ, as they say.
Brains be freaky, man.
On your money.
I want to circle back a little bit to, I don't remember what you mentioned, but it brought the conversation into my head. It was around the Lil Kim stuff when it was like using sexuality as the power and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm interested to look into a bit more why is sex been so tied to power in I guess society, in terms of like, especially maybe if I look at it from a very masculine point of view, the alpha, the powerful guy is the one that's sleeping with so many women all the time, or typically like is and is able to get whoever they want, all that kind of stuff. People in the negative sense use that to enact power, to enforce that they're stronger or bigger than someone. I was like, I wonder if you have any language as to why sex has been tied so closely to power and I guess authority, and what that has looked like over generations or something. It's a big hard. That's a thesis, probably, to be honest. That kind of a conversation, but anything,
yeah. So when people have more power, they can abuse. They can abuse that power.
Like immediately comes into like abusing that, sexually most times, or the person who is looked at as most powerful, someone who has sex all the time or can, like is very
right
in that space.
Yeah. I mean, we are hardwired to be sexual. Like it's what prospers the species. So it's one of, our most important functions that we have, besides like food, sleep, and water and whatnot. So I think when people have maybe more power, they maybe, feel like they they have access to it more.
A way to acquire it easier, right?
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, it's I don't really know the answer to that.
I was just wondering, I mean, you even think about it in the animal kingdom, right? Like, like the lion.
I took your chick.
Huh?
I took your chick.
No, like the lion who can't hold down
Yeah.
the pride, or he gets no tum. Like he's not getting active at all. And now he's like, okay, you're the beta. You know that it's very aligned with, I'm the one that has all the other women in the pride or something. If it's a lion, and
I would maybe say, in that sense, it's because if we're talking about men that are more powerful might seem more sexually attractive because maybe it's more about them providing, and it maybe taps into that more animalistic kind of mindset that, if we were animals and the man that is sitting at the top of the food chain, then you would want to align with him because he's going to keep you safe.
Yeah, okay, and then I can see how like a man that is just a bad man in general is then gonna get in that position and abuse
that.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
I
I was just diagnosed humanity. Good go.
Now you got Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah,
literally. Yeah.
Oh my days! I was gonna say we could have jumped into some of the. Well, I mean, why not? Should we jump into Diddy?
We can. Obviously, there's a lot going on with Puff Daddy's case, and there's obviously the legal conversation and all that kind of stuff that's happening around, the freak-offs and everything there. But I guess one thing that I was really curious about was, knowing that we're going to have a sexologist on and all this kind of stuff. It's like, what is your reaction to the internet's reaction to some of the sexual stuff of it? So the kinks, the whatnot, because I know you often hear, like, we don't kink shame. I do a lot, right? And it's not that, like, I'm opposed to too much in life, but I'm like, some stuff I hear and I'm like, because we're talking about, it's in the mind and all this kind of stuff, I'm like, I feel like to associate some of these things that we'll talk about with sex, I'm like, something's not okay in the mind, is how I perceive it, right?
Can you give us an example?
So, for example, all right, so you start hearing certain things being said at the trial. And to be fair, you hear about this all the time. Even like, I feel like as a early teen, it's a funny term, golden shower. And it's like, all right, cool, people peeing on people, whatever. It's almost not that crazy because you've heard it so much through TV and culture and all this kind of stuff. But when like you really break it down and you're like, okay, someone's being peed in their mouth, a little part of me goes, I don't know if that's really part of sex. That's how I kind of look at it. Then there was another one, and this is kind of the one that really stuck out to me, was so his previous partner, I guess, Cassie, had mentioned that there was many situations where some of these male escorts would finish on her body, and then she would end up in a private room with Diddy, and he would ask her to take that semen, I'm trying to use the right words here, take the semen and rub it on his nipples, right?
Okay.
Now, I hate it when my own semen touches my hand. All right? God forbid another man's semen touches my hand or nipple or anything. That is where I go, all right, what's going on in the mind here for this to actually be part of your sex?
Like for you to enjoy that.
Like, yeah, like as in what, or what are you, because then I go like, what are you trying to run away from? Like, are you, okay, I don't want to over therapize here because I do want to let you speak. So but part of me goes like, are you trying to do everything but gay sex?
For Diddy,
and like, do you
Yeah,
just
for
deep
Diddy.
down really just want to have gay sex, which I'm sure he was also having, but like, because that's like, I don't know, man. Like, having another man's semen on your nipples almost gayer than just having sex with it.
This guy's a dumbass. Well, in this,
So this is where just run with it, and you give us all your thoughts, and then we'll just get into this. But yeah, you go.
I was just gonna ask, and now the summarized version after that is like, even sometimes within this kink space, and people we don't kink shame, right? It's like, are there boundaries and limits sometimes in this as well that we just don't want to talk about because we're still now figuring out liberation?
Because of course, without question, consent, most important thing.
Yeah.
Right? That's 100% most important thing. But then we go hey, is this actually good for you? Even if you both consented, it's is this actually good for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends. Sometimes kinks can be harmful if when someone is kind of engaging in the kink, they're escaping and really disconnecting from themselves in kind of more of a problematic way. And then maybe after the kink, they feel maybe a lot of shame, or, I mean, shame might not necessarily mean it's bad, but, it might perpetuate feelings of self-hate or, low self-esteem. That's when a kink can be harmful. Sometimes, but, many times, probably most of the time, kink is actually
empowering.
It can be helpful. It can be a space where people feel like they tap into their power. They, can maybe feel emotions differently in that space. They might finish the kink, and especially when there's aftercare, which is a really nice practice in kink.
I love that word. I don't know why. Aftercare is just, when I heard it first, this is a hilarious word. I love it.
Yeah.
It's you're not just done. Aftercare.
The after.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful, wholesome word here. Yeah.
Exactly. Especially when there's power play or stuff like that, to have aftercare where there's kissing and hugging or just talking about feelings.
But you gotta love someone to
do
partake in aftercare, right?
Not necessarily, no. In the same way that you can have sex with someone that you don't love, because it's quite intimate.
I can understand sex with someone that you don't love, but to sit there and kiss their forehead and cuddle them after and all that kind of stuff, and I don't love them, I'm come on, we both know this is not real.
Doesn't need to be kissing on the forehead. Cuddling.
He's adding sugar to
I know, but as in whatever we say, could be cuddling, could be kissing on the forehead, could be holding hands, could be whatever, massage their feet, whatever. It's if I love this person, it's yeah, cool. This is great.
Because that's a more intimate moment to you than the actual deed itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's now we're going to be doing all this, and it's we both know, my Uber's waiting.
But that's the thing, kink, because it can be, it can bring up quite big, strong
Intense.
emotions.
Right, okay.
People might naturally feel like they want to be more intimate with someone after, even if they don't love them, because they've just shared a very vulnerable, intense experience together.
Right. Imagine you do a mad thing, this is a very deep, and then my Uber's
You've
written.
been calling them names for 40 minutes.
Yeah. And then after that, you just move on like it's nothing. Yeah, that's
It's Tuesday.
It's a bit crazy there.
Yeah, fair.
I hear that.
Okay,
I hear that.
Yeah.
I get it.
But as you were saying before with golden showers and whatnot, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with that. If people...
What if you want to be pooped on?
Still, if...
This is a professional, right?
I know. See, okay, so this is there's two things I realized. You can't laugh at any of the jokes because it's not good for your career too. So I will not hold it against you. But it's just there's certain elements where I'm
This guy grabbed all the hair.
I
know. Dog, poop smells. Why are you leaving that on you?
I mean, I haven't encountered that in my practice yet.
Yeah.
But if someone said to me that they did that and enjoyed it, then, I would do the same kind of assessment. I'd make sure that it wasn't harming them in any way. They were feeling empowered during it. It was, helping to resolve feelings, they maybe had the...
Man,
yeah, but
I'm breathing heavy of it. The E. coli, man. I don't know about all that one. In our now quite hypersexualized culture, there's everyone's able to now explore, and I guess most times we see this in the negative sense mainly, where it is abuse of power a lot of times, or harm and things like that. So, as in what's publicly spoken about, obviously, you probably have a very different experience in practice, right? But in this like hyper sexualized culture and society, are we heading towards a more holistic relationship with sex and understanding of this, or are we really just straying further and further away from God every day? Like, I use that in a very hyperbolic kind of way, but like, are we just, is everyone, how do I even say this? Is everyone like just stepping into, I don't even know what the words could be right here. Someone help me out.
Like, is it a helpful thing that people are becoming more sexualized?
Yeah,
and
stigmatized? Is it one of those where there aren't boundaries in education and I guess a helpful way to do this, or is it one of those situations where literally everyone is just going down whatever their desires, are leading them, and then we're going to get to a time in society where like, yo, where are we right now, and how do we? Okay, we need to apply education. How do we reel this back, because we're seeing crazy things?
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting time, because I guess the sexual wellness kind of movement has only really happened in the last 7 years.
Can you explain that, sorry, a bit more about sexual wellness?
Just where, maybe on social media, you might have seen sex talked about more openly.
Yep.
You might have seen other sex therapists on social media, sex educators. Sex toys have become far more commonplace. So that's kind of what the sexual
Which you sell your own, correct? You have your own brand?
I do,
of that?
yes.
Yeah,
I have my own sexual wellness brand. It's called Posmo.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I think since that movement, that was about 7 years ago, it's still very much unfolding. I don't think we'll really know for a little while. But yeah, I guess there's been things like I did a paper in my uni on self-pornification.
Okay.
So when people will kind of like pornify themselves, I guess, in an aesthetic way, and if that's helpful or if it's harmful to them. And
as in to their public perception or to their intimate life?
If it's like empowering for them, because they might think that they might feel empowered by like self-pornifying.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, the conclusion that I came to in the end was that if they feel empowered, then that's their experience and they can do that. But I don't know, like, I guess, even just recently was at the Cannes Film Festival, and they made nudity, you couldn't dress nude anymore. Showed too much flesh. And I feel like, maybe the reason for that was because before, I don't know, it was Bianca Sensori.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe that's an example of like, it goes
and
so far, and maybe sometimes it's about bringing some boundaries back in. I don't know. I feel like maybe some people would disagree with me on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I feel like a lot of the time the conversation is, no, there are no boundaries. Obviously, no, okay, there are boundaries. But
as long as you're within legal boundaries, you're good, is what we kind of say.
Yeah.
And it's like whatever floats your boat, as we always typically say, it's like, then that's what you get. Like, I feel like that's what most people would like speak to. On that empowerment thing though as well, it's like, what if there's also a negative, like, how people can feel empowered from, especially in this self-pornification example that you use. It's like, what if people also then have a incorrect understanding of what self-empowerment should feel like then? And they're feeling empowered, but can that
long-term, that empowerment
is that possible in that sense as well?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think when I studied this in my uni, I didn't take that next step, because in the end I just ended on, if they feel empowered, you just got to respect it.
This is PhD part. This is the next thesis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then the next step to that is, if the function of them doing that is for, to be liked more or something like that, then does that self-pornification do that in the long term, or is it more of a short-term experience of that? And that's where, I guess I'm not 100% sure. Everyone would be different. Some people might find that doing that, fulfills them, and it continues to do that in the long-term sense. Some might find that in doing that, they get this short-term attention, but it doesn't quite work out to something more substance that maybe they're seeking. Yeah. So I think that's maybe an example of kind of what you were saying before. Like, do we need boundaries? Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I hear that.
It's a question. Yeah.
What if, this is probably a very hard one to answer, but like, what would you say is the best general solution to someone's sex problems? If there's anything you could think of that you're like, in general, like doing this thing changes sex for a lot of people.
Yeah, okay. I would say vulnerability is the most important thing. It's basically something that comes up in every different presentation that comes to my sex therapy practice. If people can be more vulnerable, that means that they're more emotionally open. And the best kind of sex is when you're connected. So connected means that you and another person emotionally are, on the same page. The only way you can do that is by being vulnerable. Yeah. So that.
I like this point. Where I see it now becoming a problem is in the very casual element of things. How do people have the framework or sometimes the time to connect in that way sometimes and be quite vulnerable or caring?
In like a casual sex experience?
Like sometimes, it's like 0 to 100 very...
Like we met at the club and then we're at my house.
Bro, we didn't make it to the crib. We're in the alley.
In the car.
In the car, you know what I mean? Like,
okay, yeah.
where was... Sometimes I'm like, I wonder where's that window for that vulnerability? Because I'm very big on that connection piece. I hear that. Like I'm fully in agreement with that. Of like, yeah, the connection piece is where the vulnerability is able to be explored even further sometimes, I think too. But I wonder, where does that fit in our culture and our lifestyle as well then?
Yeah, well, I wonder if maybe it doesn't really have a space in a sexual experience like in the alleyway or in the car, because maybe what that experience is more of like an adrenaline inducing kind of sexual experience. It's novel. That might not be the best sex you've ever had. It might be like a fun experience that you'll, add to the memory book. But in terms of like, the one thing that strengthens sex the most, I would say it's vulnerability, and that can often be explored with someone that you get to know a little bit more. It can also happen in a casual experience, but maybe in a more private setting.
Yeah. So I was going to say, if you're seeking casual sex, a lot of the time you're not taking that time to get vulnerable with someone though.
But like that's the point people that might be saying that as well.
But the point of like, just casual sex, I'm here to enjoy the moment and then like that's it, Yeah. It's like we're gonna go our separate ways afterwards. So
no aftercare, man.
No aftercare.
Get out of here.
I was gonna run it back to even on that, like currently with the Diddy case, and probably even highlight Cassie's husband now, Alex Fine.
Yes.
Also,
this guy might be the best man that's ever lived, bro. That statement that he put out.
Yeah, he put out a very
just a good
touching statement. I don't know if everyone's got it on them even right now. But yeah, he put out a statement and everything. Obviously, he's there. I think he had to be removed from the court at some points because I think it was just like for this proceedings to be whatever. And he's there by her side, has been by her side all these years and whatnot. They've got lovely children as well. I think they've got a third on the way right now or something as well, right? And then being there, hearing all of these experiences that Cassie has to like testify on, I was just thinking literally the first question that came to my mind in terms of Cassie being able to speak on these things and him being there supporting her as her husband, what kind of therapy did they go through, did she go through to actually bring them to this point? And in what ways... I think we can think of them, but in what ways could that have really just impacted their own experience together as a couple? All of the stuff that Cassie had been through herself, and then like if that's not dealt with, like in what ways does that mess up their relationship? But then I also wonder, what have you probably seen in examples that have, couples have presented to you and you've had to try to like help them work through? But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm just trying to think, what kind of steps did she have to go through, or did they have to go through to get to the point of where they are now, speaking very confidently?
Yeah, I mean, hearing a little bit about what she said when she testified, it sounds like there was, there's a lot of sexual trauma there. So, I mean, how that could impact a future relationship is even small touches that, aren't even sexual, that can make the victim triggered. It can make them kind of jump. It can create this sense that sex is not something where they're in control. It can also make them quite afraid to put boundaries up. So if, if a sexual experience is unfolding and your boundaries are not being respected, so therefore it's like not consensual, this is like, in her past, then in a future experience, if your future partner wants sex, if you don't want it, this dynamic of you not wanting it and them wanting it can be a trigger, and they can often like kind of shrivel up a little bit and not come to that dynamic or that like situation with as much strength as they could. It's a triggering dynamic, the other person like wanting it and them not wanting it.
Yeah, I've never even thought about that side of it, because I would typically think of the reverse of being hyper, like extremely bounded up, like because of the experience, like, hey, now the walls are fully up, and then, I mean, that's also very true as well. But yeah, I've never even thought about that flip side of it, of like that continuing to be a pattern in people's lives.
Well, that's a really good point, because the boundaries do go up, but they go up in a really rigid way. Okay. So it's not in this it's not in your partner touches you, you kiss a little bit, and then you're like, oh, I just don't really feel like doing more. It's more your partner touches you and you're just like, no, nothing. So that's where, there's like the boundaries are they overcompensate for the boundaries.
Which I would imagine is really challenging to be the partner of that person as well.
Definitely.
And feel like, what did I do? And then also having to always go through the motions. If you're mature enough of like, okay, this wasn't it's not me, that's challenging.
In that instance, though, then would you suggest that she opens up about all of that stuff that she went through early on? Or is it something that's like, okay, maybe this can like unfold eventually, if you get what I mean?
I would say it would be a conversation between the two of them on, she doesn't have to go through everything that happened to her. He might also not want to hear it as well. I think it's the most important thing is just talking about how that has impacted her. Yeah. So, she could just say, hey, I went through some really hectic stuff in my past relationship. It's really impacted how like safe I feel with sex. It's not about you. It's just that sex is a trigger. So I need to take it really slow. I need to do X, Y, Z. I need to see a sex therapist, all of that kind of stuff. But if they both feel like it would help their relationship to open up about the details, then of course they can have that conversation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's good.
Do you think sexual deviance, whatever that means, becomes almost gateway druggy into leading into more and more? Because obviously we're talking about the brains, like as you get more used to certain things, you probably want more exciting stimulus and things like that. It's like, do you think that kind of is how you end up with these freak offs and things like that? Is like, no one just starts off at a freak off, right? You would assume.
Yeah. When you say deviant, you mean like having sex that's a bit unconventional?
And like,
or like,
I think that is beyond unconventional, because it's like when you hear like, oh, we're getting escorts off of Craigslist, which would be like our Gumtree, right? And like, they're going on for 4 days. And it's really hard with this because you cannot take away the abuse element of it as well. So it's like there's that illegal side to it. But it's like, just think, because like the average person might be like, we're on holiday, we had sex 3 times this day, and we tried some new stuff and whatnot. And it's like, that was dope. That was a great day.
That's what happens.
We tried things I haven't tried before. She tried things she hasn't tried before. Blah, blah, blah. Whatnot. Cool. All right. Beautiful. And that can be whatever you want. But it's like when you start like, there's like this whole
system
milkshake almost of like, we're doing this with body fluids. We're doing that with this. We're this kind of, someone's being tied up. There's this person that's in pain, but we don't know if it's good pain, bad pain. Like, then the next time it's like, do you lean into something further? Like, what is the go psychologically with this kind of stuff?
Well, sometimes if people are pursuing like an adrenaline rush during sex, I see this a lot with porn, they might go to things that are more and more extreme to like get that same rush as they were previously. And I mean, yeah, sometimes that process can be a little bit fragmented from who you are. So, you know, if you feel like when you go into this sexual space, you do things that feel really, really opposed and different to who you are as a person, they don't align with your values and whatnot, then it could be that maybe you're like fragmenting your sexuality from your sense of self. And when you enter that space, it feels a bit more compulsive because you're not as rational as before. So that could be the case, you know, where people might be pursuing more and more sexual things that just don't align with who they are. And that's kind of like a sense of like hypersexuality. And that can also be linked to like stress in their lives, and yeah, using sex to cope. So yeah, it could be that, but I mean, then there's like also like the paraphilia side of things, which is not so much that's not so much my area, but it's where sexuality becomes it's problematic, and that's when it's like abusive. It could be.
I have a question on this one because someone asked, as you do, right after church, someone was like, oh, because they know we're going to have, you know, this episode or whatnot, and they were like, I've just found out about consensual, non-consensual sex. Yeah. Right? Which is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's pretty much rape fantasies, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Does that lean into that, what you're saying with the...
No, different. Okay. Yeah, because consensual non-consent is when it's consensual. So that's both people enjoying a fantasy. They get pleasure out of it, and it's an enjoyable experience.
Okay, so how do we go... again, there's the trump card of it's legal because there's consent. But shouldn't like there be something around like...
If your mind can even get there.
The fact that you're enjoying the idea of rape here
or
needs to be frowned upon.
I disagree.
Because then, like, are you not in a sense saying there's something hot about not rape, but someone? I don't know, man. It's just
so.
What's the healthy aspect of that?
Yeah. So if you really break down a rape fantasy, what's happening in that is the person that is the victim in the fantasy, they're being pleasured so much that the person that is pleasuring them wants them so badly, and the person that is sitting back is, one, not doing anything, and two, being just touched and the other person is ravenous for them. So that can actually tap into people's fantasy of wanting to be deeply, deeply desired. And two, if some people have a sense of performance anxiety during sex, like they get a little bit
it's like, I don't have to do anything now.
Yeah, they get a little bit afraid of like, you know, it makes them anxious that they're not going to be able to please the person right. A rape fantasy is a perfect outlet for that person because they don't have to do anything. And they're deeply desired by this person. But the thing is, though...
Do we just give it the wrong name? Is that like...
Well, yeah, I guess, because if you think about the emotional experience, a real rape is fear.
Right.
Yeah. You know, like, you know, you're not in control. You're probably out of your body. A rape fantasy is pleasure, fun, excitement. So it looks maybe the same, but internally, it's a very different experience. That's why it's consensual, non-consent.
I have nothing I can say against this.
It's
just
the words make sense, but they don't.
I look at the blurred lines of it sometimes. I mean, I guess when there's consent, there's no blurred lines in that element of it. But I just know that there's probably a lot of people who are probably in that and enjoying that type of sex when it's like, but actually, there's a bit of, I don't know. I just feel like sometimes there would still be a bit of. Are we clear on the boundaries in this element? Is it I feel like those boundaries have to be explicitly clear.
Well, that's why there's safe words.
Yeah.
So in consensual non-consent, stop or, you know, don't do this.
That's not
a safe word because that's part of the fantasy. So people will say those things, but a safe word would be like
more, and now the guy's confused.
Apples. It'd be like apples or something random because it pulls you out of the experience.
Yeah.
But there's so
I hear that too. You're right because you hear apples, you're thrown off.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Oh, really?
Is the actual terminology is not rape fantasy though, is it?
I mean,
Like when you talk about it, it's consensual, non-consensual. Like that's.
I don't think there's any like official.
I haven't come out with an iOS update dictionary for this.
Yeah, I
now.
don't think there is any official like dictionary for
okay.
it. Yeah, it could be both.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I want to talk about
Learning.
couples now. Actually,
Yeah.
wait. Do you want to do top 3? Do your game?
Sure. Let's
Yeah,
break,
let's do a game. Let's
break
do-
it up
yeah,
and
yeah,
shake it up a
Yeah,
little.
we got a little game.
All right.
All right, cool. So we're back with top 3 this week. So what I do is I just tell you guys to list down top 3 of so and so. I'll give you something to list down, and then I'll give you a few seconds to list down the top 3 of that thing, and then we'll just go around the room and see who has it in the top position. If I'm wrong, forgive me because we do have an expert with us today, so she might tell me that I am wrong. But today's top 3 is top 3 foods commonly used in the bedroom. So top 3
like
foods commonly used in the bedroom.
So is this from our?
Not from your experience.
No, just
Like, what do you think
general.
overall?
So I kind of get.
Yeah.
There's no statistics, but it's like what the internet says most people use.
Okay.
Yep. So today's top 3 is top 3 foods commonly used in the bedroom. Who is going to kick us off?
I'll go first. It's Horgy.
What the heck?
I'm normally Norgy. But yes, that's the context.
OG.
Honorable mentions: cucumbers, bananas, just phallic-looking things. Those are my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Third is honey. Second is chocolate or chocolate syrup type stuff. First is just because I feel like in movies you'd always hear about this, whipped cream.
Yeah. I think we're made for each other.
Whoa.
Hey, bring the whipped cream.
Yeah. This week, my name is Cheek Solosoji.
Oh, God.
Honorable mention, cucumber.
Oh my God!
You guys are.
Number 3 is the difference there. I had maple syrup,
Hey,
but I was
that's the
thinking
same.
of
It
honey.
looks the same.
I was trying to figure out what honey was.
Oh, maple syrup is crazy.
Maple syrup,
God.
chocolate sauce or chocolate syrup, whatever, and then whipped cream.
Oh my gosh! Boy, run me them cheeks.
Ain't no ED over there.
Okay.
That's us.
There is too much going on here.
All right, Laura.
But yeah.
Okay.
What do you have?
Kind of close to you guys,
Okay.
but I think you both missed an important one.
Oh!
What do we miss?
You can read them out.
Whipped cream, number 1. Strawberry, number 2. Chocolate, number 3.
Strawberries in the chocolate.
I was gonna write
aphrodisiac
cherry.
foods.
I was gonna put cherry in there, but I was like,
Cherry. That's
just
because Usher does that to everyone's baby
I
mama.
almost demonstrated.
Wow.
Wow.
Well,
What is
I mean, you guys have a pretty similar list, all of
Okay,
you guys,
okay.
except a few things are missing. So I'll go from top 5 and then we'll work our way up. I was really surprised by this one. Not sure if the internet's wrong or if I'm just, don't see this often. But in number 5, ice cubes. Can you confirm? Do people use
yeah,
ice
for
cubes?
temperature
Apparently,
play.
like you let it glide across the skin. Apparently, hold it in your mouth while kissing, playing.
temperature
is
play?
that
Thing? Yeah. Apparently. Apparently.
Hey. Try it and those kids are coming, bro.
Oh god.
I'm just picturing maybe around
Stop.
the nipple or something.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a
Yeah.
thing. It's a thing. All right. And it says, it adds a thrilling temperature contrast. So.
Bruv, it's called frostbite. Carry on.
In number 4, we have honey. So honey used in small amounts for
probably
sensual,
maple syrup,
slow
sure.
play. Better when it's warmed
I
as
love
well.
how it says in small amounts. Nah, dad.
Yeah.
Ruining the bed sheets.
All right, cool. In number 3, we have chocolate syrup.
Okay.
Yep. So rich, indulgent, and associated with passion. And how is you can drizzle it on the skin.
Okay. Oh, so Laura's got 3 correct.
I know. I actually
Yeah, she got-
also had sauce before, but I rubbed it out. So
There you go.
That's I'll give you that one for sure. In number 2, we have whipped cream. This list says whipped cream is number 2, but light, playful, and sexy. So apparently, you use it. We know. We've seen in movies and.
What movies are you watching? I don't know. It's not.
I mean, you know what I mean. So whipped cream in number 2, and then number 1 we have strawberries. So so strawberries associated with romance.
Hey. Well, clearly she knows what she's talking about, so she's good at her job.
She knows.
How does one begin to utilize a strawberry in coitus?
Come on,
actually, I have a what's called a masturbation meditation coming out soon on my website, where people can people engage in all the different sensory elements of sex, one being taste. So how you would engage with something like a strawberry is, you would look at the strawberry, you would rub it on your lips, rub it in like sensual areas, lick it a little bit because that's sensual, and then put it in your mouth slowly. Yeah, like, put it around your mouth, swallow it. That's if you're masturbating.
Sorry.
No. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm taking this very literally. I'm following you.
If you were doing that with another person, you could do like the similar thing, like, put it on their lips, have them lick it, tell them to tell you how good it tastes.
Oh my God.
Just stuff like that.
Can you imagine walking on in your house, mate, and they're just in their room by themselves rubbing a strawberry? Fair enough, dude. That's kind of cool.
So the couples that are coming through, you've touched on a little bit, I think, in the initial sense. Oh yeah, we can grab that from you.
Thank you.
You touched on like the initial things that people would typically come into your practice for, but within couples, right? What's going on? What's the main kind of, I guess, common differences or issues that are typically, I guess, being presented?
The most common thing is mismatched desire.
Yeah.
So this is when two people have, different levels of desire.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn.
And how does one then navigate that? It sounds like I'm asking very around the bush for myself or something. How do people, what is your conversation
around the bush?
The bush, landing strip. What's the conversation that you begin to have with the couple in therapizing them through this?
Yeah. Firstly, I'd understand how they navigate the higher desire partner wanting sex and the lower desire partner not wanting it. If it ends in a fight, if it ends in they don't talk about it at all, they avoid it, there's already red flags.
Yeah.
Because how you communicate about sex is going to massively impact how much you can kind of understand, work with each other, compromise, all of that. So if it kind of ends in a bit of like it's a bit of a toxic kind of conversation, then I would help them have a more constructive conversation around it. I also help them understand how there can be compromise. So if the lower desire partner doesn't want a full sexual experience, then they can, just say that they just want to do a little bit or they just want to kiss. Because the higher desire partner often feels disconnected.
Just a strawberry tonight, babe.
Exactly.
What constitutes a full sexual experience then?
Well,
because in my mind,
Getting
clearly,
the other guys semen on your nipples.
Because in my mind, I'm like, there's no bounds, kind of. So, like, what do you speak of when you say a full?
Oh, fair.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I believe that there's, there doesn't need to be penetrative sex in order for it to be a full sexual experience. But some people will feel that they need to do the foreplay and then the penetrative sex and get to the orgasm and that's a full sexual experience. So people, might kind of misunderstand that they don't have to do all of that. They can do whatever they feel like doing. And then if at one point they want to put the brakes on and stop, they can do that.
Yeah,
but
fair.
if they feel they can't do that, then they just avoid it.
Completely, okay. Right.
Yeah.
And I guess this is where a lot of people then bring this conversation up to, especially a lot of people that have like the faith backgrounds of like sex before marriage. A lot of people are like, okay, so how am I supposed to? How do we know that we're compatible? Like, is the conversation that people always have around. But I mean, does that now change sometimes? Because sexual desire can change in relationships too. So is there even what does even compatible mean when we talk about it? Like,
Yeah. That's a good question, actually.
Man, I've had about 6 of those today.
He's getting a strawberry tonight.
Would no sex before marriage be just no penetration, or could there be
Okay,
other
okay,
foreplay things happening?
All right, let's just say they're going 100% by the book and like
Nothing.
no sexual
Interaction.
interactions.
But
Okay.
even sometimes sexual interaction can be the way you rub my shoulder, bro. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Get off me, harlot.
You know what I mean? So that's even tough then. But if we say no,
Like kissing is the most.
yeah.
Kissing is the most.
Kissing is the most.
Okay. I would say that you, like, if you and the other person have, touch each other, even in a non-sexual way, like in an affectionate way, really seamlessly, that can be a good sign. If you maybe want to understand if there's compatibility without having sex, maybe it's about talking about sex. So asking some really detailed questions, like what, turns you on the most? Are there things that you're curious by? Do you like being a bit more kinky or playful or sensual or loving during sex? What's your favorite thing to do during sex? Asking all of these questions can get, you can get
context.
Some answers. You can get some context.
Do you think that can be enough for some people?
Well, I guess you won't really know until it all plays out. But I often say that sex is something that is not just when the clothes come off and you're rolling around. Like, it's something that happens.
You're rolling around.
The beast with two backs, as they say.
It's so much more than that. Like, sex is always happening. It's how you compliment each other. It's how you touch each other. It's how you flirt with each other.
Right.
It's how you make the other person feel sexy and desirable. It's how, you feel desirable within yourself. If all of those things seem to be tracking well, then you're probably going to be fine when sex happens.
It's so interesting because they say, what is it? It's like, if sex is good in a relationship, it's about 10% of the relationship. But if the sex is bad, it becomes 90% of the relationship.
I've never heard that
Probably.
one.
Really?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, it just becomes this hyper-focused thing that's like, why is the relationship bad? We don't have sex or whatever. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like that you're adding some language to how people, who are trying to be abstinent, would
Yeah, I like how you
Get
don't
into
shame anything. I kind of like it.
Yeah,
Like, you actually give an answer. As opposed to being like,
exactly. Because if for some other people, they'll be like, "Oh, no, I don't think that's healthy. That's probably not the way you should go about this relationship. You're probably not going to be able to really know each other unless you." But I like that there's language to no. This is actually if this is important to you and this is a value.
Yeah.
Then these are the things that you should, I guess, that you can incorporate. Because
Of course, yeah.
I would think that even in some Christians or people of faith in other different denominations or whatever it might be, would go into a premarital counseling session, and sex is also still missing in that conversation. So it's where does someone then even go? What do you even have as the materials to help to, if these are people that have never had any sexual partners before, they're engaged now, they're about to be married. They have no context or no experience of this through, if it's their pastor or their parents. You ultimately you're stuck with the movies and porn. That's what you end up going to as the of the framing of what this thing looks like. But I like that. It's okay, how do we talk about this around each other? Some of the good signs are that you would make someone feel sexy, or you can be affectionate in the touch and stuff like that. It's okay, these are probably elements that I think help to destigmatize and untaboo this conversation, that it leads to better outcomes once people now engage in that, if
100%.
they've never before, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think if they can talk about it, as I said before, the mind is the biggest sexual organ. So if you can talk about it, really understand your partner, you can convey to them what is really important to you, that can, be super helpful. So, and I think also if because of people's faith, they don't want to have sex before marriage. I think that's if that's what's important to them and that's linked to their faith, which is also something that's, quite special and important. I think upholding that can even make better sex down the track, because it means these two people are really aligned on something that's quite important.
Yeah. How have you seen that be a problem and an issue? Maybe different faith backgrounds or something, or how faith has played a role negatively in people's sex life and stuff like that. What have you seen?
I guess I have seen the kind of shaming element of sexuality within faith, how there's, this sense that if you have sex outside of marriage, it's immoral, or if you maybe act too promiscuous, it's immoral. So some people do, struggle if that's what they've grown up with. When they're allowed to have sex within a marriage, they can't let go of those attitudes. They're so
scary,
deeply internalized. So I do see that side of things as well.
Yeah. It's crazy.
As for Daniel Marwa specifically, like, how was that conversation for you
With each other?
leading up to it? Yeah, around
Yeah.
like sex and frequency and all this kind of stuff. And like, did you find that you had similar opinions, or I'm sure there's some sort of meeting in the middle.
What kind of conversations were we even having? I don't even remember.
Because when I spoke about people that go through premarital and they don't
That was
have, I don't
us.
think we had that conversation in that.
You didn't have it in the
I
premarital.
don't think
Came
so.
up. I don't remember it coming up in
Like
that.
we did a quiz and then they kind of took our differences from that quiz, which weren't many. I think that's why. And then they were like, okay, let's discuss it. But sex wasn't a thing that came up.
Genuinely trying to think
Yeah,
what
or if
conversation
it
we
was,
had.
it was very like, yep, this is ABC and that's it. Like we didn't really go in depth into it. Which is okay, maybe some feedback.
Do you guys wish you would have? Like, do you think it would have made a difference?
a conversation.
Yeah.
I think it helps because in my mind, right? I'm just trying to think now. Also, that's my sister, right?
Yeah. That's why I was like, yeah. That's why we were texting. I was like, are you okay with me asking this?
And he didn't see my last message was like, father, the intern.
It's educational. It's educational.
I think definitely beneficial in the sense that the exploration part of it, because we have friends who got married as well not too long after us.
Yeah, a few months after.
And they were the conversations that they were kind of having was very much around the lines of like
What do we do?
yeah, what do we do kind of thing, right? And then for us, I'm like, Loki, that's kind of the similar
similar
thing that we were
issues or-
experiencing.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
not in a what do we do sense, it was like, okay, like what are you about? Like what are you on, man? I'm on. I know what I'm on. Like what are you on and how do we navigate that? I think if we had having space within that and maybe the pleasurable aspect of it, because that's not a conversation that is had a lot in the faith context. It comes very much from which it's funny though.
Which is hilarious because there's a whole book in the Bible that's pretty much just about the pleasure.
And that's what I was about. I was like, it's hilarious though because there's so much speaking and language to that within the Bible that brings sex in a very pleasurable manner. But yet, it's not something that is now spoken about in a pleasurable sense in conversations that you have. I think even we had like a relationship series in our church recently, last year. I don't even think we didn't. Sex wasn't a conversation that was brought up in that.
Yeah, no.
There's currently a marriage course going on, and it's like, yeah, all the other people that are like intending to be married, come along. Ooh, but the sex conversation, you guys
Sit out.
don't.
Only
you
just
guys
the
can
married.
sit out on that one there. So yeah, there's no space, I guess, created for the exploring it positively. But I'm like, do people have that in general as well? Anyways, like even people that don't necessarily, maybe they do for sure. But I'm just wondering, like, is it healthy even the spaces that other people have anyway? Like, there might be a lot of people talking, last night I did this night I did that, or this was amazing. This last week we had this experience. But is that a healthy space that they're speaking about that as well? So,
Cool.
Well, I think you said before about how there's not much conversation about pleasure.
yeah.
And pleasure is what helps people go through sex in like an embodied way. So you don't need to really be super educated on sex if you just know that you need to follow pleasure.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, consent is a very important one. But in terms of being this like connoisseur of sex, you don't need to have like some kind of education on it.
So true.
Yeah, you just need to be able to follow the pleasure which comes up in your body. But if you think sex different, if you think sex needs to be a certain way, then you will think your way through sex, and that's when you'll feel really misaligned, you'll be confused, you won't know what they want because you're not in tune with your body. Yeah. When you're in tune with your body, that helps the other person to understand, like connect with you more. And then when you're more connected, you're both kind of opening up more. But it really is about the pleasure. Yeah.
Like that. I mean, I'm interested now as well to know how do you see sex being quite empowering then for people as well, especially, talking about being in tune with your body and whatnot. Like, in what way do you try to steer or use sex to be that empowerment for people?
Yeah, it can be empowering in so many ways. I think in relationships, it can, really, really strengthen a bond that two people have. It can also be something that brings up a lot of really powerful emotions. Like some people might cry during sex, like, tears of joy, tears of like how moving it is.
Yeah.
It can also be, how people feel sexy and feel confident. It's also a creative outlet. When you move your body in different ways, that is essentially a creative activity. So using
Kama
sex.
Sutra.
Using sex to express what you're feeling emotionally can be an amazing outlet to, like, I guess, have certain feelings internally and then be able to express them in interesting ways during sex and with another person. Yeah.
I think sex is often portrayed to be like a young person's escapade,
Dude.
but I was curious
Yeah.
Ask your question.
what, in terms of the clients you've seen, but also just stories that you hear about, like what's the oldest client that you've had? What are the issues of the elderly, aside from, you know, the typical, like what you'd associate with like the biological aspect of, you know, as you get older, erectile dysfunction, I don't know what the, you know, potentially libido hikes or decreases with women, whatever it could be. But it's like, when it comes to older people, what do you hear? What do you see?
Yeah, I have people in their 60s, 70s who are clients. But actually, I mean, when you get older, life can become more challenging and stressful. So contextually, there might be things that impact your sexuality. But physiologically, when you get older, you still are able to feel desire and experience desire. And I actually remember in my uni, I learned about this kind of, I guess, study where they found that in nursing homes there was an increase in STIs because people were just having sex.
I've heard about
and they didn't think they would, so they didn't give them education on safe sex.
It's kind of cute, but really dangerous.
So the old people
Yo.
Getting it on.
Nah, because that's a
Literally.
conversation. That's a question that I was thinking to myself. I'm like, yo, because you see a couple, 50 years married,
Bro, you know what it was?
beautiful. What?
There's a stand-up comedy clip that went viral, and some guys like there's an old couple, and he like calls them, he's like, oh, you guys still, you know, doing it, blah blah blah. And then the old man's like, yeah. And he's like, show us your best move. And this old man stands up on the side of the thing and just starts humping the stage. And I was like, oh my God, like this guy could actually still be doing this. And normally you don't think that. Continue.
Well, that's what I was just like, yeah, you see a couple that's they're in their 70s, been married 50 years or whatever. And I'm like, okay, have they gotten to this point because now I've started to really love your mind and your personality that I don't even need to have sex, and that's why we've been strong with it. But I was like, oh no, or are they actually really still just active out here? I was like, does it change? I mean, yes, I'm sure, but then
Definitely.
I don't know, what does that change look like? What does that become in the mind? And it's just it's one of those where you see your teacher come, I'll have to leave because they're now pregnant. What do you mean you're having sex at home? You're my teacher. Like, what? You do this as well? Like,
how dare you?
how dare you almost? I was like, it's just interesting looking at the older demographic, older generation. It's like, oh, this is still very crucial in that aspect. Like, have you seen anything that changes over years for some older couples in that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I see when couples progress in a relationship, their relationship becomes centered on like getting jobs done, raising kids. They just become a good team. Yeah. And obviously that's a really important element of a relationship. But when the fun is kind of sucked out of it and like the date nights stop, the silliness stops, getting dressed up and feeling sexy in front of your partner, when that stops, that's when sex will often be impacted in long-term relationships. So my clients who are in long-term relationships and struggling with desire, I'll often get them to inject some of those like flirty elements back into their relationship. Yeah. So I think keeping a relationship flirty and fun and all of those things is one thing. I also think, going back to the vulnerability thing, when people are comfortable to be vulnerable during sex, I think that is a really big factor in what makes people either have this kind of monotonous sex for their long-term relationship, or sex that feels really dynamic and really connected. A lot of people just go down the monotonous road because it's too scary to bring different sides of themselves up during sex. So the vulnerability side would mean more like, you've had, a good day at work, you feel excited. So during sex, you're a little bit more dominant or a bit more like confident and cheeky, or maybe that day, you've had a hard day, so you just need something more loving and affectionate, making it more dynamic. But when it just always looks the same, that's when it can lose a bit of that spark.
And I guess dynamic and maybe responsive is also like in its dynamic in nature, being responsive in nature too, to how the person's day has been can now probably also dictate how things should go down in the bedroom later that night kind of thing. So
100%.
Looking into that as well. Yeah. I like that flirty thing in the relationship. They're like, you see them cheeky old couples that they're still like, still trying to grab them cheeks, you know what I mean? Chasing around,
cute,
just
bro.
to getting his hip and that, just to get
cute. It is.
like, it's
It
actually
is.
cute seeing that still in them times. Yeah. Oh my days, man.
I love
Should
that.
we check out maybe some of the
Yeah, we
questions
can.
from the peeps?
All right, so we got a bunch of questions from our listeners. All of these are anonymous. So I'll go through them. They're all over the joint. You just go for it, all right?
Yep.
So one that we got quite a bit of was around these lines of overcoming porn addiction. Where and how do I start?
Yeah. Okay. So when clients see me with like compulsive porn use, we call it, firstly, I will help them understand how porn fits into the bigger picture in their life. So are they using it? Most of the time, yes, to manage stress. So can they manage stress in other ways? Are they also using porn to manage loneliness? If they're single, do they not go out much? And therefore porn becomes like a really easy outlet to just get some of their intimacy and sexual needs met without needing to deal with the anxiety of like trying to pursue someone. So can they do some of that stuff? Can they pursue people and not rely on porn as much? But it can be a really, really hard process to go through. You can book in for a sex therapy session. That'd be my main things, I would say.
Sweet. All right. This one I think was a really sweet question because I imagine it's quite challenging to think this could be you. But someone said, I think I might have vaginismus. What do I do?
Yes. Vaginismus.
I was going to say yes, please define.
Yeah, that's when women struggle with painful sex. So it's when the muscles that surround the vagina involuntarily contract.
Yeah, right.
And it makes it really hard, almost impossible sometimes for penetration to happen. So that one can be a really hard one to work with. It can be a really hard one to live with, rather. Because, you don't understand what's happening and your body's just doing something. It doesn't feel like it's within your control. To overcome it, definitely sex therapy and pelvic floor physiotherapy is a good first step. In terms of the sex therapy side of things, I would help people understand what they need during sex, because sometimes they might just think, that they need this, this, and this, and then they should just have penetration, but then we'll discover, no, they need to like chat with their partner for a really long time before sex. They need to touch each other's skin. They need to connect. They need to kiss passionately, then slowly move into foreplay, but all that stuff isn't happening. It's going way too quickly to penetration. Naturally, their body tenses up. So, that also the fear response that comes up with it, it's a bit of a complex one.
It is.
That physical therapy aspect of it too, specifically now with pelvic floor exercises, like, this is so holistic approach to this.
Yes.
It is.
One, concern. Was it concern?
Concern.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. That's dope.
What should my coochie smell like?
Oh, God.
Gosh, that's what I actually don't know.
But that's actually how they wrote it. So.
What's that thing? Femme fresh?
If there's like a fishy smell, then, it might be something like BV. There could be an STI there. But, gosh, I don't know. That's one.
What should it taste like?
Gynecologist.
Gynecologist.
What should it taste like? No, that's something I don't know, to be honest. Yeah.
See, if you guys are ready for
Water.
my gynae.
Yeah, I would say
You know?
gynecologist might be best for that.
That's fair. Okay. Why do people like feet, brackets, asking for my mouth?
Oh my god.
Someone knows something here.
This one is no secretly.
I know, yeah. Why do people like feet?
Why do people like feet?
Sometimes it's cultural, like I know in
That's what
Middle
you
East-
said, yeah. That's what he said
Continue,
as
and I
well.
will
Yeah.
break it down. We'll clip this. It's going to go viral. I know why, but continue.
Okay, well, well, in terms of Middle Eastern culture, I would say.
Yes, it's happening.
I mean, there is a big like focus on feet. There's a big focus on like nails, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but like if we think about from like in the Middle East wearing like a hijab, perhaps the feet are exposed.
I'm a genius.
That could be what kind of like because the feet are like one element that is that people can see. They become sexualized because it's exciting. So it can be a cultural thing. But maybe in like in Australia, because it's maybe a little bit more unconventional. Yeah, that might be tapping into just the fact that it's a bit unconventional.
Right.
Yeah,
and then that becomes the place.
So I was born for this. You just chose this. That's exactly my theory. I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, because I'm Christian from the Middle East, but it still tends to be this common thing that you'd hear like when I was dating and whatnot. It's like. I don't know how it just end up coming up in the conversation. They're like, bro, why is every Arab guy like this? Every Arab guy like this? And I was like, it's probably the one thing that you can almost always see, and they're always done nicely.
Yeah.
Arab girls in general, same with the Somali girls.
Yeah.
It like they always tend to have it taken care of, and I'm like, bro, this makes so much sense. This makes so much sense.
Really, girls that had like the janky feet, but she had the mac and cheese, but. No, guys are approaching her now because the feet.
That's on her.
She didn't have the right color for the season.
White for the summer.
Also nails as well. I feel like Arab guys love nails being done. Yeah.
Wow.
Shout out to you, man.
Yeah.
It's I think I've said this time ago. Like that's something that like I wouldn't expect from my partner, but it's like I highly appreciate if you always have your hands and feet like done. Like it just. To me, it's like, oh, you're telling me you love me as well.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
That's why her feet are always done so nice.
Oh, she's like this already.
Yeah, her feet are always looking
I was like,
nice.
now I know what to do.
Requisite, man. Did you have more than one?
There are quite a few more. You want to run one of yours? Or?
Okay, sure. Damn, okay. On the spot.
While you find one. This actually, I like the second part of this. Someone said, what the hell is libidos and why do I only hear women talk about it?
Libidos.
Libido basically means desire for sex, which can come up in, you wanting to have sex with another person. It can come up as you having desire for masturbation.
Yep.
It's you fantasizing about sex. It's, you enjoying the thought of sex and wanting to have a sexual experience, whether solo or partnered.
Yep. Beautiful.
And also low libido comes up with men as well.
It does.
I see it in my practice,
On this, is there a, other than age being a factor, is there a reason that you see men libido drop and a reason that you see women's libido drop?
Women, I often see, going back to what I was saying before, with boundaries and like not understanding that you can put your boundary up. You can do a little bit and then put your boundary up. A lot of women I find will struggle. Like they're not aware that they can do that, or they'll feel really bad if they do that. It comes from things like Dicty's culture, like shaming a woman if she doesn't do more sex and
Gotcha.
that she's alluding to.
Okay, right.
So a lot of women will come to me saying, oh, but I don't think I can just do a little bit. But I'll say, no, do a little bit because that builds up the tension. That fills up your cup.
Excitement.
Yeah, for, down the track when you do have sex.
Right.
So that's one I see a lot with women. With men, it can be porn use. That can impact desire. Stress as well, for both men and women, actually. Yeah. Stress can be a big one.
Can decrease or increase or both? Or either
this is for decreasing.
Okay.
Yeah, to decrease, yeah. Oh, stress cannot actually increase people's desire. Yeah, where it can make them desire sex more, perhaps because it is, in a sense, something that is a stress relief. Yeah.
That's cool work either.
Yeah.
Okay, on the dick tease thing. Are blue balls real?
I love that you've asked this question. Okay. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. So,
no, that is so real. I will have back pains because of it. And I'm not being dramatic. I'd never complain about my body sores or nothing like that after I play sport or whatever. But I will actually be unable to like drive home.
This guy hung like an elephant, bro. What's
No,
that?
relax.
Can I ask a personal question?
Go.
Are you in a relationship?
Yes.
Are you married?
No. We're trying to do it right.
Okay, trying to do right. So like,
Read between the lines.
okay. So that means you've done a few things and then it doesn't go all the way.
Yeah, which I'm fine with that. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's just the actual pain that I feel afterwards. That's painful.
Okay, so yeah, you'll do a little bit and then you'll find after you feel like.
And this has been
extreme pain.
something that I've felt since I was 17, probably.
Back pain, crazy, bro.
Yeah. Is that normal?
I don't know.
back
And then I Googled it and they're like, it's not real. And I'm like, I swear I'm not making this
Pain
up.
is real.
Well, what I kind of say to my couples, because then the girl is like, yeah, I don't want to do a little bit because then he's going to get blue balls. And I will make a reference to when couples are first getting to know each other. It's maybe different to like this context, but when couples are getting to know each other, there might be like a process of doing a little bit, not rushing into sex. And often the guy can have it under control a little bit more. There's not blue balls as much because his expectations are different. He's not expecting sex.
That makes sense, yeah.
So the anxiety around like this thing that's meant to happen
that's
isn't happening,
meant to-
is not there.
Got you.
But then in a relationship, when they expect it to happen and then it doesn't happen, that causes frustration, anxiety, and then that can increase the sense of like blue balls. So I just say like you just
Such
got
a
to
phrase.
reframe, like what touching, a little bit of touching means.
Right. You don't get back pains?
I can't say that. Nah,
Back pain is crazy.
I don't think I have experience with the back pains. Is a mad one. I know a friend of that. For him was bad. He's like, I need to have a shower, kind of vibes. Yeah, like I was like, is it that painful?
I just wonder if there's this like
Like a psychological thing telling me
like
I'm in pain?
you think blue balls is a thing, so like maybe you get more stressed after, more anxious.
Crazy.
How could she?
So I'm like feeling in your back. I'm like, bro, is this like ovary residuals or something? Like, what's happening?
It's like 2 points in my back. Yeah.
That's where they used to be, bro.
Oh,
Crazy.
gosh.
I had one of the questions that someone sent to me. But I guess it was around this conversation of the art of good sex and how there's many different elements and aspects to that. Aside from the physical of just knowing what you're doing, but then now there's like the self-confidence, the awareness of the other person and all that kind of stuff. How do you see someone being able to actually achieve that in their relationship or in their life? Like not just now knowing what I'm doing physically and knowing my way around someone else's body, but actually having the other positive elements of the self-awareness, the someone else's, being aware of someone else and all that kind of stuff. Like, how does one get to that beautiful point of this thing being a very pleasurable and enjoyable experience?
Yeah, I would say prioritizing connection is like the most important thing because when you and another person are connected, there's just flow. Things just flow during sex. And it doesn't really need to be like, there doesn't need to be as much direction.
Yeah.
But when you're thinking about how you can be the best lover and how you can get that person to orgasm, there's a lot of like goal oriented kind of mentality there.
Yeah.
And that can impact how much you just like feel into your body and connect with that other person. So I would say take the goal off the table and just go with the flow of the experience and just prioritize connection. Don't think you need to be somewhere or like achieve something. Yeah.
And I think, especially now, if we're adding it into like a relationship context, that goal aspect of it can be so damaging considering there's a whole journey and life ahead of these two people.
Yeah.
Like if from the jump, there's this very big goal mindset of things, like you have already shattered expectations and I guess an experience at the very start of something that's meant to be an explorative journey, like lifelong, if that person you're with forever. Yeah.
What is that question that you're asking?
It was
Sorry,
around like
The
the art of sex, like not just the physical good part of like the physical part of it, knowing what to do practically, but then now actually adding in the elements of like self-discovery, being awareness of someone else, being aware of someone else and whatnot.
On that, do you encourage couples to use toys? Or is that more of like a encouraged if you're single, to use that.
Miles spent an hour and a half working up the courage to ask this question.
Don't annoy me. No, because I was just talking about like the art of sex and figuring out what you like, what you don't like. Is it something that you encourage, like use toys while you do that?
It comes down to whatever the couple are interested in. So toys can be a really fun way to like experiment during sex. It can also be like an act of sexual empowerment, because toys have been like stigmatized for so long. So by using it, it can be, kind of empowering to be like, I'm using a sex toy and we're going to enjoy this and talk about it. It can also be a nice way to open up communication with a partner, because you kind of need to talk about how you're going to use this thing on each other.
Yeah.
So there can be lots of benefits of using sex toys.
Somebody said, what's the best way for a woman to... They said for a woman to last and actually enjoy herself when the man is done in 5 minutes. I think they meant more for like the woman to enjoy the experience if the man is done in 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I would say if you feel like you still, you're still turned on and you want to continue, express that to your partner. Sex doesn't need to end when the guy finishes, or when the guy, I shouldn't even say finish. That just goes to show how much all of this stuff is internalized. When a guy ejaculates, it doesn't need to, signify the end of sex.
I would not have pulled you up on that. You're in the right place to get it wrong.
But I would say speak about that. You can talk about it after sex. You can say, hey, I'm so fine with you, with like how it ended in 5 minutes or whatever, but I would really love like if we could continue doing things after. And ideally that the guy, you want him to be responsive to that as well.
He's slumped over, he's having a nap, man.
That's the biological side of things is where it gets really tricky, because it's like a lot of the times like you'll hear that thing like afterwards, like the guy just knocks out, and it's like, well, what's he supposed to do in that situation? Like that's so.
Well, in that case, then maybe open up more communication before they ejaculate. Like, if you feel, if you just cannot continue, if you just cannot continue after you come, then
don't.
Well, try not to, and say, okay,
try not to,
try not to, and because sometimes it's hard. People with premature ejaculation can't control. But if you really want to extend that experience for the other person, then it's about saying, hey, I got to slow this down because I'm going to come. Or, hey, we're going to do something different because I know I'm going to come if I keep doing it.
Stop.
Just keep that communication open.
Were there more?
They are good.
This one, I'm just trying to understand it properly. I probably should have done this before. Maybe I'll just read it in its fullness. How does trauma affect women sexually? I guess that's the question to start. And then it says, whether it be from assault, medically, for example, IUD insertion or pap smear testing, or fear, how can women overcome that / a partner assist in supporting them?
Great question. Yeah. So
I'll take credit for that.
Sorry?
I'll take the credit even though it's someone else's. But
trauma can impact people's sexuality in a lot of ways. It can make them feel like they don't have agency in sexual experiences. It can, going back to boundaries, it can make them feel like they can't put their boundaries up. It can make it harder for them to communicate. It can make it harder for them to understand what pleasure, what they want during sex, because they might go into like a freeze response and dissociate during sex. So they get cut off from like the sensations in their body. So it can just make them have not have pleasurable experiences sexually. So how I like to I like to give analogies in my therapy sessions. So one analogy I like to give is, imagine if you like walked into your bedroom and there were like lots of rats in there, for example, and that freaked you out. The next time you wouldn't just walk straight into your bedroom like you did before. There'd be this process of slowly being able to walk back into your room with the same way you were doing it previously. So maybe the first time you just got to peek through and then close the door. Second time, you need your sibling to come with you and like hold your hand, and like you just go in for a second and then you close the door again. And then the third time, there's this process of slowly going back into your room and like reducing that fear.
Yeah.
Sex is the same. So because people really struggle to have sex in ways that are in line with what they truly feel, they use like porn and movies to guide how sex should look, they don't have that same kind of like dynamic approach with sex. They might struggle to be like, hey, I just think I want to kiss for like half an hour tonight. They might not think that that's even an option because in their mind, you've got to kiss, you've got to do foreplay, you've got to do penetration, orgasm. So if that's the only like option with sex, then they don't integrate back in.
So I just imagine 30 minutes kissing and then get the wheelchair out, bro. I can't walk.
You're back.
Sorry, continue.
Back.
But if it's meaningful, to
Yeah,
the
for sure. It's
partner,
beautiful. I do think
then-
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to the analogy, you
Yes.
could imagine if you thought the only way you could go back into your room was through like
Just
barging the door back open. I mean, this is maybe
Yeah,
not completely
it's good
apply,
though.
but you get the concept.
Yeah.
They might freak out. They
Yeah.
might go into shock.
Yeah.
They'll be like, this is not working. So yeah, so that's slowly integrating.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
All right, one myth about sex that you wish people would stop believing.
Ooh, one myth about sex. That sex needs to follow like a formula, that it needs to be, like kissing, foreplay, penetration, orgasm. Kind of like what I've said previously. People like think that that's what sex is. People might only call sex penetration, like when penetration is involved. I think that's a myth. I think, it can be so many different things. Like tantric sex that involves like
What's that?
two
Heard this one.
people-
Yeah, I've heard the words. I don't know these.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
don't
like
know
when
like
you sit
I'm not
down
expert
and
on
you just
that.
sometimes you're just looking at each other and
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
You're eye gazing, and some people might like.
Hold up. Sorry. This guy said, "What is that?" and then gave us the
Yeah, he
definition.
told us.
I
exactly
said, what is that?
it was.
You said, what is that? I said, I've heard this one. No.
Oh, yeah, basically that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sitting across from each other, eye gazing. Sometimes people might be like rolling around in their seat a little
Yeah.
bit, but nothing. There's no touching each other in a sexual way. They have crazy orgasms.
Yeah.
There
No,
can be
That's
crazy orgasms.
impressive.
There was a guy on the pod. We listened to it in the UK, Temi on 90s Babies. Him and his wife did that.
Dog, that
And he
that
said-
sounds fun.
And he said he just sent him. He was there.
That sounds fun. Fair.
Wow,
I like that
okay.
idea. All right. Most misunderstood kink.
Oh, most misunderstood kink.
Just slightly your opinions, but I'd like to know.
Maybe like sadomasochism. They're
Oh,
two different ones.
Okay.
What's that?
That's something with
Yeah.
the mouth.
Who is
the
that?
mastic. There's a bit food in there. Is that?
Sado. It's a bit sadistic.
Sadism is when you get pleasure from humiliating another person or making someone feel bad.
Lesser than.
Masochism is when you enjoy
Masochism.
being humiliated. So like it's like when people would say like you slut or something during sex. The person that likes doing that, sadist. The person that likes hearing that, masochist.
And you're saying that's a
Yeah, misunderstood.
misunderstood one.
Yeah. People might think like, why would you want to say that to someone, or why would you want to be called that?
You dog? Nah. Dumb dog. I'm dog. I'm just thinking of memes now. I'm
No,
dog.
okay, fair.
Yeah.
In this though, but race play.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Because that stems into that.
You're
a
the
little
right
bit.
person to ask this question.
Because that goes into that a little bit, right? We cool with that? Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you explain a little for those who
Yeah.
might not follow?
You know, they're substituting the slut word for other words. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
that's cool too? Or.
If there's consent there,
Yeah.
in the same way that like a woman might want to be called a slut, it's you can reapply that to what you're
Facts.
explaining. And yeah, if someone enjoys being humiliated, being called things that outside of sex they would not want to be called,
Yeah.
What?
inside sex, it's fun. If there's consent.
Okay. Black people of the room, what do we think of then? Because if, like, let's say, for example, it's a black person and a
Non-black.
white person,
Right.
for example, right? And I don't know, pick is the guy black or the girl black? Just pick.
The
quick.
girl's black.
The girl's black, okay. And so she wants this white man to call her the N-word. What do we think about him using the word?
Hey, man. I didn't hear it. In the bedroom.
He's been wanting to say it his whole life.
It's in the bedroom.
That's what happened to Doja
Doja
Cat.
Cat,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's literally the scenario where
exactly
it
what she
came
did in
out
the
that
chat
that's what
rooms
she
and
was
what.
doing. Yeah, in the chat room, she was allowing these, men who are not black to call her those words, and it was people were not on. They were not on it at all. But yeah, I don't know.
Hey man, it's complicated, huh?
Someone's gonna say, "Well, why don't you tell these rappers to stop using it in
Of
their
course,
songs?"
of
I don't know.
course. Always.
Is these the conversation continues
Yeah,
to?
yeah,
All I know is I didn't hear it, man, happen in
Yeah.
the bedroom.
Yeah, something wild that someone has asked in a session. I don't know if anything is wild to a professional's ears, but it's like, is there anything that you were like, whoa?
There's definitely been moments, but I couldn't.
You couldn't, yeah,
I
fair.
couldn't.
Yeah.
All right, what do
Something
you
to
think is the thing that you often hear guys are trying to introduce to their partner or trying to like express, I want to try this thing? Like obviously there's the running joke of the butt, right? But it's like, oh, guys always want to blah, blah, blah. But it's like, what is there other stuff?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't really seen anything consistent,
Trend,
to be
yeah.
honest. I think, yeah. I mean, there can be some, like having having like threesomes, going like, swinging, stuff like that. But then there could also be something, like butt play, sex toys, stuff like that. Varied. Yeah.
Now looking forward, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if you want to have kids or anything like that, but in the
okay.
future, how do you see yourself now navigating this conversation with your child or a young person, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think how I would navigate it, because like kids, even from a young age, will like touch themselves. Even like toddlers will do that. And
I've
I think,
not heard of this.
yeah, I think what I would do is just explain to them that that's something that's healthy and it's okay. And if you have an urge, it's okay for you to like enjoy that feeling. You don't need to be ashamed of it. But that there is also like privacy that comes with sexuality, and that's something that you can explore in your own space. Yeah, I think that's how I would navigate it.
I'm looking at it like I have no idea. I mean, I think I say I have no idea, but again, you just have to keep that space open to have the conversation with your child or whatever.
We're much more educated as well on this
100%.
than our parents, so we
Yeah.
can actually navigate it more different than how your dad told you to just go about it.
In his defense, as I got older,
You watch dogs?
What?
You just saw how the dogs did.
that was your safe word. He became a little bit more wisdom giving, not about sex, but about relationships.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would lean into sex. And he did try to get some information once when we were on holiday, and I was like, buddy, I'm not telling you. You've only done this twice. Me and my sister, that's it. Your loss. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. How did your mom even navigate that convo?
She didn't. No, she did not. I don't think we've
weird.
ever spoken about it, ever.
I just find it so interesting how there's a stark difference between, I guess we call this the Western culture, and then
Yeah.
where we all like our different backgrounds and where we come from. Just the way it's so different in the approach to this conversation, or maybe it's not. I don't know.
Do you think in like Australian culture it's more approached more?
Yeah, there are. I know plenty Australian friends who,
Their parents are aware of a one night stand.
yeah,
Right. Yeah. Okay.
you know what I mean, or like their mum. They can even be like, "Mum, I don't have any condoms. Can you go and grab some for me?" What?
I feel like there's so many more like customs, like in maybe like ethnic cultures. It comes with more kind of customs around certain things, and I think that also extends to sex.
Yeah.
Like
Okay, so like in other aspects of life, in tradition, in these
Tradition,
cultures, like there's a lot of
yeah.
stuff that goes, and then yes, sometimes that now trickles down into also the way people then approach sex as well too.
I
Then
think so. Yeah.
it might be a big part because I mean, I don't want to say there's no culture and tradition in Australia. That will be removed, like my citizenship is revoked, but like there's not as much prescription of how things are typically done.
Yes.
So even there's a lot more exploration when it comes to the sex aspect because everyone's just like, no, just do what feels good or what you're interested in, kind of thing. So very different to how I guess a lot of cultures that we come from and other people like that.
Yeah.
it's many other things are typically prescribed in terms of how you go about like things in life. So
yeah.
maybe that plays a role, I guess. Yeah.
Even something like introducing a partner to
Yeah. Facts.
parents. Like, I feel like maybe, I don't want to, generalize.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could be more,
I just
easier
generalize.
to
We do it here.
Yeah, it could be
mean,
easier to do in
it's
Aussie
true.
culture. You know, you could just introduce your new person to your parents, you know, really casually, and
Yeah.
that's not a big deal. But like in an ethnic culture, I feel like there's a bit more, like it's a bit more serious.
Yeah.
There's a bit more of a custom around it, and a bit more of a process.
Mm.
I feel like maybe sex
Definitely,
just falls
yeah.
into in the similar way.
For sure. Outside of all of that, what else are you interested in? What else do you do? I feel like we've spoken about, I mean, obviously this is your work and what you've studied and whatnot, but like what else is something that you're interested in or that you do as well?
Oh, something else. I guess I really love dancing. I don't do it professionally. I used to back in the day. I used to be a ballerina and do like other kinds of dancing, but I really love that just like as a hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Gosh, you caught me off guard. Dinners. I'm like, I love doing bougie dinners with my friends and getting dressed
Love
up.
that.
Yeah,
Love that.
Being bougie. Yeah, I would say that. I think, my life is kind of a mix of working, going out, treating myself, looking after my health, going to the gym, doing wellness stuff, keeping in touch with my friends and my family. And connecting. I think lately I'm really trying to reconnect with my Italian heritage. I've always kind of been connected to it, but I'm feeling now as I guess the older generation are getting older, those traditions are being lost a little bit. So really been trying to connect with that lately.
Yeah. It's really funny how we all kind of like circle back in that way.
Bro,
sometimes.
like there's a period of time where you push it a little
Yeah.
and you're like, I don't really want it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're like, I really love this thing.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I saw a friend recently, he shot a friend's traditional, they're Nigerian as well.
Yes, I know this.
He shot shot in terms of photography, their introduction, like it was a traditional introduction that happened. And then he was just like, yo, it's crazy how, you know, these are the parts that you push away as you're growing up. Then he's seeing these two friends come together and they're doing the introduction before getting married. And he's like, this is a beautiful ass culture. Now you're interested a little bit more and trying to tap into that a little bit more. Like we push back on it so much as we're growing up. But then like, you're right. Yeah. As you start to see the things that are getting lost or, that sometimes we realize, I actually never fully understood that. And now you're actually trying to pursue understanding what this thing means in our culture. Like, it's important, I think,
I feel like as you get older as well and life becomes a little bit more quiet, that's when you kind of can revisit it as well. So I feel like when you're younger and you're just like going out and socializing a lot and it might
Having
not be as
sex.
important. Yeah,
There's
you
no
have
time for culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's dope. You mentioned something that's then that brought something to my mind. Oh, yes, health, physical health, right? Now I've brought you right back to sexologist convo. When it comes to physical health then as well then too, what are some things that we should be, as guys, as women, like what should we be focusing on for our health to improve the sex life? But then even for me, I don't know how much you look into this. I'm even thinking around the lines of like actually reproductive health too. Like, and how the physical health plays a role in those elements of things too. Like, I mean, what are some...
You're talking like nutrition and movement and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
but like,
holistically?
what are some very top line, like key things that if this is all you can do, this is going to drastically help to improve sex life or reproductive health as well?
Yeah, the reproductive health
That's
is
another
probably
bag.
not my
That's
specialty, but in terms of just having feeling more healthy sexually, definitely all lifestyle factors like getting a good night's sleep, looking after your diet, exercising, water intake, general mental health, basically any. Oh shit, I think that's my phone. Should I keep going?
You can put, you can grab it. Oh, okay.
Or feel free to just stop it if that's okay.
Yeah.
Basically anything that impacts your mental health can impact sex.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah,
Sexual health,
does.
All of this is like this, man.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
one machine, bro. Like
And
you're
then
in one machine
everyone's
and
looking at it like
everything-
this,
Yeah.
though. Separating all the different segments and whatnot, man.
Is it ever weird, I guess, this may be you, to you, like, is it weird for either for you or for your friends and family to be like, we know so much, or even like we hear so much about sex from Laura? Like, do they ever kind of go like, this is a lot to hear. Like, I don't know how much you put out your own opinions and your own experiences and all that kind of stuff. But I did look at a couple of like, what's it called, like blog articles type stuff and whatnot that you've written and things. Where it's like, yeah, or because I would also imagine like from some of them, it's like you can piece together what you think this person has experienced or hasn't experienced or whatnot. Like, is it ever weird to them or to you, or do you guys just like not talk about nothing?
If my friends ever have like questions about sex, then they'll definitely ask me. But yeah, I mean, we don't talk about it like heaps and heaps.
Yeah.
Just whenever it feels right in the conversation. But I think it's kind of,
Like it's
we'll have a joke
normal
about it.
amount.
Definitely.
Like,
Yeah, not like obsessed with talking about
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, just like a normal amount.
And then I guess, again, up to you here, but like, are you in a relationship? Single?
No.
Okay. I'm guessing you date here and there and whatnot.
Yeah.
Once it comes up that you're a sexologist, right? Does like the person that you're on the date with, do they obsess? Do you find they obsess over that fact, or because it's so different? And are you ever kind of like, oh my gosh, like, are we doing, or like, or do guys that you're dating?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So it's like, do they kind of just assume like there's, a otherworldly experience here?
No.
You know what I mean?
they have
Because
high
like this is a pro. This person has
Yeah,
studied
yeah.
sex. They better be freaking great at it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yes, I can get that response sometimes. I've had mixed responses. I've had some people, get like really, really excited. I can see that they
really excited.
That's weird, but understandable.
or like they get like they just want to ask lots of questions. Sometimes it's a bit, I can struggle with that a little bit because I like to take a bit more of a traditional approach to dating, like, getting to know someone before opening up that side. So when I tell them about my job, then they might start going really down that pathway, and I'm like, no.
shots.
What's your favorite movie? And they're like, all of Pornhub, all of it.
So that can be a little bit of a tricky one to navigate.
Right.
But most people think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, most
It's
most
very
people I've
unique.
dated.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I'm shocked, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is interesting stuff for sure. I'm trying to see anything else in my mind that I've picked up from conversations around people over the years that they would want to hear. Because I'm like, this is the opportunity right now. Do you have any other? Oh, so you do blog posts and stuff like that, but in other pods, but
Articles?
there's nothing.
Sorry,
Yeah,
that's what I meant.
Or articles, rather.
Yeah. I write for other publications.
Got you.
I go on podcasts and I run my practice and I do like content, like social media.
Okay, I was gonna ask, like, what's your medium for like putting things out? It's mainly like social media.
Social media.
content, then. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any other questions from the peeps? Do you run through it?
There are. I'm going through this.
Before we wrap it up.
Someone had a question around like how social media and influencers are shaping sex education, good or bad.
Ooh. Well, if they're like sex educators and they're trained, then I think it's great to give people access to like correct information, factual information around sex. So I think it's a positive thing.
Guys, we can be doing some good stuff here, yo. Could really have positive world experiences of this if people are just taking the time, I guess, to have these type of conversations. I like this though, because I'm like, we don't have. You said this almost 300 episodes. We've never probably had a
First
in-depth
time.
conversation around.
Yeah.
This is how long it takes sometimes. 300 episodes, right? Nearly.
got
Is there anything that you want to maybe leave with the peoples?
Yeah, or maybe like an advice to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right? That may, and like the variety of 18, because a lot of people at 18 have not had any sex. A lot of people have had some. A lot of people have regrets. A lot of people
true.
are proud of their experience, whatever it might be. It's like, what's a good advice to that age kind of thing?
Yeah, okay. I would say be kind to yourself. If you feel like the experience you have doesn't seem like, how culture tells you it should look, find comfort in knowing that so many other people have experienced that as well. Because I see people later in life who might have had experiences in their teenage years, had sexual experiences, might have lost their erection, might have not performed the way that they thought that they should, and it sticks with them for years and years and years. There's shame, there's embarrassment, And then we talk about it years later and I say, hey, you were just nervous. You just really wanted to like pleasure them. And you felt like if you didn't pleasure them that you were a failure. But really it all comes down to you just wanting to have a good sexual experience and provide a good sexual experience. Sorry. So I think just be kind to yourself. Don't shame yourself. You're learning as much as everyone else is learning. And be vulnerable. Talk about how you're shy. Talk about how you're anxious.
Do you get a lot of people come to you that are, air quotes here, but have had good sexual experiences, enjoy their sex life, like there's nothing that they're struggling with. They're just like,
Yeah.
because you know, like people do that with therapy, like just like regular therapy,
Mental health,
where they just go to the therapist or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, do people do that with sex therapy?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, people might not necessarily need to overcome a concern. The concern element is like what I guess takes the more specialized approach. But if people just want to learn how to have better sex, they can definitely come to sex therapy for sure. Yeah.
That's the one, man.
That's cool.
That's
Thank you for joining us. This is
Nice.
fun. I like this. This is good. We got good questions out the way.
We still don't know how to solve Noah's back pain.
My back pain.
But,
You can solve it for me.
I can solve it. Where the cucumber at?
Whoa. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You can follow Laura there. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Thank you.